Welcome to the BrightWord Books Podcast, the show where we highlight inspiring authors and the stories that bring imagination to life. Today, we're joined by Tedi Tuttle, an accomplished author whose storytelling blends real-life experiences with creativity and heart. Her featured book today, Sadie Spider Does Lunch, is a children's story that began as a simple but surprising moment at her kitchen window while she was studying at Brigham Young University in 1991. So what started as a class assignment soon blossomed into a colourful and whimsical tale for children, one that celebrates curiosity, surprise, and the little adventures waiting in everyday life that we all enjoy. Tedi is also the author of works such as Irrevocable Impact, which captures her mother's life on the Idaho frontier, and Danny is Different, an award-winning bilingual story inspired by her son's journey as a young heart transplant recipient. With a passion for creativity, literacy, and timeless storytelling, she has more than 24 children's books in the works. And as a mother of 9, grandmother and lover of music, art, and the outdoors, Tedi brings warmth and depth to everything she writes, as we'll find out. So Tedi, welcome to the show. It's really great to see you. How are you?
I'm doing great. Nice to be here, Chris.
Oh, we're going to have some fun with this, I can tell. I can tell. So listen.
I like having fun.
Yeah, right. That's what we need to do in these things, okay? So yeah, brilliant. So first of all, let's get straight in. Can you share a real-life moment that really inspired Sadie Spider Does Lunch and how it unfolded in your kitchen window? Because that sounds strange.
Well, I really am terrified of spiders. But to bring this to life, I was just in the kitchen, and there was this little spider and in the corner, and it saw a little ladybug. And so it was going to wrap it up for lunch.
Yeah.
And so I'm like going, I'm going to watch this because I've never really seen a spider, get lunch and wrap them up in that little cocoon.
Yeah. God.
But it did happen right in my window. And I was supposed to be doing a little short story for my class at Brigham Young University. I was taking a writing fiction, I guess, class. I never finished it, by the way, because I was living in California with my son's heart transplant. I was living in San Bernardino, and I had a friend that let me borrow their computer so I could write down there for his heart transplant, which is also available. But a spider, I thought, I hate spiders. Why would I do a story? But then I thought, you know what, this could be a kid's story. And I was always a soccer coach for my children. I had 6 boys and 3 girls. So I didn't like the way the coaches were coaching, because sometimes they wouldn't put my kids in, or they'd put them in a position they didn't want to be in. And so I decided, you know what, I'm going to be that parent coach. And so for years I did that from when they were age 6 to age 12. I quit when we got to age 12 because those kids just jump off the ship. But I love soccer, and yes, that has inspired other books. And speaking of soccer, with this little book, once we got it it was black and white, so I would print it up on goldenrod paper for Halloween, really. Well, we did spring soccer and fall soccer, indoors and outdoors. And so I'd give a copy to my soccer kids. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I bet. Oh my gosh. So you know everything there is to know about soccer, right? As well as coaching kids in a team. That's fantastic.
Yeah, I grew up, in high school, even though we were small in Idaho, we played soccer at, lunchtime.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I learned the rules a little better down here, and they were always changing them a bit. So
yeah, well, you can instruct me on the offside rule because I was still confused. But no, I'm kidding. But yeah, no, that's fine. So what made you decide then to turn that true life ladybug moment into a children's story? I know you said that you could make it into one, but what actually made you go, yeah, you know what, this will work?
Well, I had an assignment due, number 1.
Yeah.
So I thought, here's a story it's making. And you know what? Most of my books are all based on things I have seen, done, people I've talked to. And it's amazing because you don't really realize that your life and your experiences can be made into books. And so, I had to have something in. Maybe that's why I quit shortly after. I don't know.
So
The
this
teachers like it.
did the teacher like it? Sorry.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yes.
Hey, well, there you go. That's okay, right? So I mean, so you had to hand something in. You had an assignment to hand in. I mean, how else did your BYU fiction class then shape the early version of this book, as opposed to just having to hand it in?
Well, that was a long, long ago. I was just trying to get some of my credits in. I already had an associate degree from Rick's College, which is BYU, Idaho. And so I started having kids, and after we had the son with the heart transplant, and we had to go from Salt Lake to Loma Linda University Medical Center. And so I was trying to do it distant. So back then, we didn't really have the internet to use. So that was in 1991. So you'd have to mail it to your teacher, and then they'd mail your stuff back. So we just happened to be home for his birthday when I saw this little spider thing happen. And so there's just so many things that you do that are life experiences. And like I said, I really don't like spiders, but what was the question again?
Yeah, no, it was really how did the your class help you to sort of form the book, as it were, from just like I guess a short story or an assignment into a book.
Correct. So it was a writing fiction class. And so I wanted to sort of get into a little fiction because as we were unfolding the story of Jason's heart transplant, he was only 9 months old.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, he was very young. After taking this, I'm thinking, forget about fiction, just do the real life stuff because this heart transplant could be a book. And so that's when I borrowed the computer from a neighbor. And they said, you can use this as long as you're in California. And I said, well, I hope I'm not here very long. We were actually there 4 months.
Oh, gosh.
But it was because of the fiction class, it made me think, well, I can also do nonfiction. And actually, nonfiction sells better than fiction if you're a new writer. And so I didn't really have a new book out, or I hadn't really got any books out, except for my recipe book that was also a family favorites book that we put together for a family reunion. And you know what? I still printed it for my kids when they were I had the digital copy at the community college here by me. And so when they go, Mom, my book is worn out. Can you do another one? Sure.
Okay.
I just put it down there. But I think the class really did help me think that there are things you can turn stories into that are from your real life adventures. And I have a lot of them.
It sounds like it. Well, you would do, wouldn't you? Especially with all those kids, right? So, I mean, there's always a story there. So,
Yeah.
and talking of the kids and the book, obviously. Now, you mentioned earlier on about the black and white images that you gave out to your soccer kids, which is a really nice thing to do, right? But how did that evolve then into a fully illustrated children's book? Did someone just tell you that it's a good idea, or did you think that it might help to sell copies?
No, it's usually I need to sell something so my kids can eat.
Yeah. Unfortunately, yeah.
I was a school teacher, and when he first started, 4 years before Jason had his heart transplant, his first year he only made $12,000 for his income. Wow, is that possible?
Yeah.
We did get into a house, and it was because he took up a second job that was something his sister was doing. And I mean, really, we didn't have a lot of money to print up books. And so the one that was doing the first copy, To Heal a Heart, that was Jason's heart transplant, that has no pictures in it and it had a pink cover. I was thinking, well, if they can do this, you guys can just put a little black binding on it, kind of like those old golden books that we used to have that were, the little cheap gold binding. And they go, yeah, we can do that. So all they would do is put the pages together, and they could do it for me at this place that actually did To Heal a Heart. That was the first book about my son's heart transplant. It was hard to write because I have to do it in third person. They said, sorry, but this is your life. You need to put it in first person. So everything I've done is basically motivated by, I want to feed my kids.
Which makes sense. And it's a nice way to do it, right? So being creative, and all that, rather than like going and working in a, I don't know, as you said, a school or a store or something like that. So
Right.
yeah.
I've never really worked outside of the home very much. I've had a lot of jobs, but I haven't really liked them. I don't really like working with people who are always telling me what to do.
Fair enough. I kind of know the feeling. Okay, so without giving too much away, though, right? What can young readers like expect to discover in Sadie Spider's adventure then?
Well, everybody wants something with whistles and bells and everything's really highfalutin and, cut out books and the little windows and everyone's like going, wow, this is hands-on. We've not thought of a book like this.
Mm-hmm.
So it has little things that you can discover inside that when we were little and I had 4 older sisters and a younger brother, we were always thinking up things in our minds like, well, what if we do this? And so we were always doing puzzles and anagrams and crossword puzzles, and my aunt always showed us all how to do that. But we used to take a mirror, would write words backwards, like our name backwards.
Okay.
And then you could put it up in a mirror, and then you could read it again. Right. So that was one of the things that sort of came into the picture. And my daughter was only a few years old. I think she was 6 years old. I says, honey, you're really artistic. Would you like to design the ladybug in it? And she goes, yeah, Mom. And so I actually used her little picture of the ladybug, which children have so great imaginations. And yeah, it was amazing where it all just came together. And using, I think one of your questions was, how do you utilize your children? Do you tell them your story? Oh, yeah, we have grown up with these stories. My children have, even though nobody else has ever seen them very much. They have enjoyed all the stories, and so this is one of them.
Oh, well, that's really nice, Teddy. I love the sound of that. So when the children are reading them, your children, other children, or anything else like that, I mean, are there lessons or values that you're hoping that the children will take away from Sadie Spider's story?
Well, I think it's just that using your brain a little bit. Spiders, I guess they must use their brains. They have some, I guess.
Yeah.
But children these days are pretty mindless and play on games all the time. So to actually have a book that's hands-on, you have to hold it. You have to turn the pages. You can whip out your mirror because then you can utilize it inside for your book after you read it. And I would like to see children read more, and their reactions are always like, oh, how did that happen? Then they're, oh, because of course the end of the story, then they find out. But
yeah. It's true. I see what you mean about the hands-on thing. I mean, even for me as an adult, right? So I'm trying to read something. Say I've got a piece of paper like this, and I'll suddenly try and zoom in. Do you know what I mean? To the paper, like I would do on an iPad. And that's me. So can you imagine what children are like? It's amazing. So, I mean, how have you managed to get that book to encourage children to interact and have that hands-on experience? You've mentioned, obviously, turning a page, which for some children will be quite new experience, won't it? But how else have you done that?
Well, one thing I think about all the time is our children do not know how to count money. And so I always put a page number. I try to put page numbers on them so they're big enough that they can see them, or they're in a kind of an interesting place to show them that numbers are in order, because this is for kids that are around 6 or under, but anybody can enjoy it. Yeah. The difficulty we have as, marketing our books these days is people want to have the high sounds, and they're on social media so much, and their brains are just so revved up that to sit down quietly with some soft music in the background is really new to them. And I find that it's really hard, even with my 6-year-old grandson. He's like, what's this? I like the cover, but there's nothing going on. It's like, well, you need to work on your English. So if you'd read a book, perhaps, maybe that would be helpful. But these children, they're not learning to read. They're not learning to write. They do the little icons and all this on social media and on their phones, and they're not getting how to read, how to write. They don't know what even words look like. And I mean, it's a really big problem right now. So, and I like soft music, and I love classical music. So, of course, I always have some of Mozart's influence in most of my books, or Beethoven.
Nice.
So there's a little of that in Sadie Spider even.
All right. Well, there you go. Do you know, it is amazing what you say there about children and how things sort of progress, or not, as the case may be. But as you say, the 6-year-olds, I've heard that quite a lot, actually. I mean, my kids are very, very old, so I mean, they're not like that. But I think that you're right. Screens play such an important part in their lives. That these things that are normal to us, normal to my kids and everything else, it's just they just don't understand it. It's not their fault, is it? It's the way that the world has moved forward. So authors like you that create these books that actually give them something, that arouses their curiosity and surprises them, perhaps. This is the point, isn't it? So no, well done, Teddy. And I don't mean that to sound patronizing, but I think you're right. I think it's really good to do that. So, okay, so let's have a look then about, writing the book and putting it all together and how you felt about it, really. So what was the most rewarding part of bringing this story to life and after so many years, right?
Well, the thing about it, I've been wanting to do it with color forever. And so it's probably been 10 or 15 years ago. Well, right after I started doing the awful color for Halloween, goldenrod, with the spider, I found some typing paper that was blue at the top and yellow at the bottom. So it kind of looked like a sky and the sun. And so I grabbed that up and I printed it on it. And it really brought out the fact that it's daytime, the spider's having lunch. And so I turned one side up blue for the top, and then the next page was yellow at the top. But it was a gradient of colors. And so that gave me the idea, like, okay, well, it's not just going to be black and white now. And then I had thought, well, maybe I should do it in maybe, blue, black. That didn't catch on. Yeah. But then just recently with BrightWord Books, they have some illustrators that can just wow everything. Mm-hmm. So we were trying to figure out how to make it appealing. And I told them I like the gradient color. Let's do this. And I think I like that. But even before that, I actually did colorize it with colored pencils. So Sadie Spider has a little hat with a flower that's red. And she has a little napkin around her neck because she's going to be eating lunch. Oh, yeah. So we got a little green napkin that she uses in black and white. It was just, black and white. It looked like it was a race center or something, racing cars. And so they really helped me think. And I wasn't very happy with this. I wasn't happy with that. And I finally said, you know what? Sadie Spider is a Victorian spider. I think she should have something cool like a Victorian spider. So that put I like little rims around books and stuff. And I originally just had a little black thing with the spider web at the bottom and the page number. And so when they caught onto that, they revved it up and I'm like, yes, that's exactly what we need. That is so amazing. And then they still use my pictures that I did because mainly I just had on the one page just the writing and then the picture on the other side. And so they just really helped out, put it together, and it just turned out so excellent. I'm very pleased with it.
Oh, well, no, that's great, isn't it? I mean, to be able to work in conjunction Yeah, with a little hat, to neckerchief, a little napkin.
Very English.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so there you go. You see, so that's brilliant. So when you were writing the book, considering you have six boys, right? How
Sure.
did they kind of influence the way that you tell the story? You know, because you're so focused on being able to communicate with boys, right? Did that help or hinder you?
Well, actually, my oldest is a daughter, and then I have six boys, then I have two girls at the end. And so at that time, I only had like my oldest daughter was six, and then I had a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old, and then my baby.
Yeah.
So I was more centered on my artistic daughter. And when she come up with this little ladybug, I'm going, oh, that is just so cute. I just would have never, I'm thinking, how do you do a ladybug? You always see just a little flat red ladybug with the wings and its little horns. And nope, that's not how she did it. It was just amazing. So I think my daughter probably influenced me more on Mrs. Spider because it was, the other boys hadn't come along yet.
Oh, okay. Well, no, that's great then. So that it seems to be working then. It doesn't really matter. I mean, fantastic. I must admit, I like ladybugs. So, it's always nice seeing them. They're pretty. But during your life, you mentioned earlier on, that you've worn many hats. You've been a student, you're obviously a writer, a soccer coach. You've worked at home. I mean, how have these experiences shaped you as a children's author?
Wow. Well, they just have. It's just part of your life. But I have to go back to high school. Most of the stuff I ever learned was at high school. And I feel sorry for my grandkids because a lot of them didn't get to go to school for a couple of years and they really missed out. Because in elementary school, we had teachers who would sing songs and we would put on a Christmas opera. And it was a little rural place. I had about 30 kids in my class. And so I think a lot of the stuff I learned that incorporated in writing of books happened right when I was in high school. And then when I started going to Rick's College, I was an art and design major. And so I fell back on that. I figured if my husband never died, I would be able to do something because my grandmother had 2 husbands that died, and my mom had 2 husbands that died. Right. And so I thought, well, I hope my husband doesn't die. And no, he's still alive. We've been married 42 years now.
Well done.
but the influence that you get from your children is inspiring, and they have imaginations really big. But at the 2nd grade, they've had all that beat out of them by education. And so all of my children have basically written a book. And I have utilized that. There's 2 more I'm going to do. For example, I have a daughter. When she was little, she goes, Mom, I want a peanut butter, jelly, and carrot sandwich. I'm going, oh, honey, that's a great story. So we wrote it down. And it was something that she basically wrote. And she used it for one of her college classes when she had to write a little story.
Oh, there you go.
And then, of course, my son Jason, we figured he would always have hospital bills.
That's right.
And so I thought, well, one day he came home saying, cock-a-doodle-doo, I love you. Cock-a-doodle-doo, I love you. And he did that for about a month, and we were about ready to slap him with a pizza. So I said, Teddy, we need to sit down and write a book. So that's where cock-a-doodle-doo, I love you came out of, and we're going to be, BrightWord Books is also going to be publishing that. And there's a sequel to it, Ralph Rooster at Get Down and Boogie. Mm-hmm. So one is a waking up story and one is a go to bed story. But there's so many things that you don't think of, but your kids give you inspiration. They come up with really weird stories. Like my youngest, when she was 3, I says, hey, what do you want to be when you grow up? She goes, a pony.
Oh.
I haven't got one about a pony yet, but that would be really cute. She does love sunflowers. And she's written one that... So one day on the sunflower thing, we were going around the block, and she says, Mom, there's a bee on that sunflower. He goes over to the sunflower, and he just sucks the sun right out of it. And I just thought, that is so cute. So I'm going to do a story on that eventually.
Yeah. Well, that sounds great, doesn't it? I mean, the way that your children and grandchildren help you, with your books and stories, it's just lovely. It's really nice.
And they're the first ones that hear them before they have pictures. And they're going, Grandma, this picture would be really cool doing this, or this picture will be, oh. And then actually, my grandchildren all have stories too. So my one granddaughter, her book is going to be Colors, Colors Everywhere. I would really like her to do the art, but she says, Grandma, you need to help me. Because we used to do the finger paints, and so we would put our hands in the paint, and we'd make really cool, hand finger paint things. So yeah, I got lots of books. If anybody ever wanted to publish them, I have 36 ready. All they need is pictures. We have a sequel to Cock-a-Doodle-Doo, I Love You. Also, it's called Till the Cows Come Home. And that's going to be so much fun. But before I ever did that, I have a whole grouping of fairy tales with a twist. So we have The Gingerbread Dame. We have Daniel Goldenlocks and the Three Bears. Daniel Goldenlocks is a boy, not a girl. So there's a little twist on these fairy tales. And my favorite is Helga the Troll and the Three Billy Goats Gruff.
Oh, not the Billy Goats Gruff. Oh, I don't like them. I don't like those.
Right, but this is so much fun. I always didn't like the story, but my mother read them to us, and they were kind of rough and scary.
Yeah.
And I put a twist on them where they all end happily, and they're really fun. And the children are going, wow. And all my children love it. My husband loves them. And that's one series that I hope to do. So
Well, that sounds
getting
nice.
here.
No, that sounds really good, actually. And so, I mean, this is a good idea, right? So is this the sort of advice that you'd give to aspiring children's authors, who've got, everyone, well, they say everyone's got a story in them. I'm not entirely sure about that. But, if people have got,
That's true.
you think it's
I
true.
think everybody has a story inside them.
Yeah. Well, it seems, well, your family certainly do, don't they? All the kids, crikey, yeah, amazing. So how would you, somebody who wants to be an author, how would you encourage them to actually start doing that and just get on with it, basically?
Well, they need to get off their phone. They need to get off social media. They need to have some experiences out in nature or somewhere with real people. I mean, they need to go out, and somebody was saying, oh, my son is going to ask this girl out. And the dad goes, well, why don't you just go up to her and ask her? Oh, I couldn't do that. Why don't you call her on the phone? They don't do these. They don't call them on the phone. They don't see them in person. They only see them on social media. It's called face-to-face, but no, it's not really face-to-face, because when I grew up, we had tons of friends. We had so much fun. We played Kick the Can. We played Mother May I. We played all these fun games and Inside Sardines. Probably no one knows what that is. Red Rover, we used to play that. And the children these days are not getting these play. They don't know how to play because nobody's showing them how to play.
Oh, gosh.
So for authors, I would say go out and live life. Go do something outside. Climb a mountain, just go to the park and look around you at every angle and see what you see. Watch people, because they are so interesting. And another thing, learn to read and learn to write. That's the first thing I tell them. A lot of our children just don't read or write. And so on my podcast, or it's actually my YouTube that I'm doing, every time I say, keep reading, keep writing. And so I'm just starting that, hopefully this week, but on how my books came to be, each one of them. And I have a lot of books. In fact, we have one that these guys are also reissuing. It's called A Princess, Dragon, and Baker. And it's a very famous castle on the front from southern Germany. And that was an add-on story that my kids, as we're driving to the farm, that's a 3-hour drive, would say, once upon a time there was a princess, of course. But it just turned out so cute. We have sharks. We have rabbits. Yeah. And, children have great imagination. So if you want to write, it's easier to actually market nonfiction, something that's about your life. Most people are not comfortable about talking about themselves or writing about themselves. But that's the first place to start. Do something that's nonfiction. And so what I'm doing right now, that BrightWord Books, this will also be out within the month, It's called Food, Glorious Food. Well, I like to eat food, glorious food. And it's in Spanish and English. And all it is my photography.
Oh, nice.
Because I like to take pictures. And so I've taken the pictures of food because when I go to a restaurant, I take pictures of food. When I make stuff at the house, like I love to bake bread, I take pictures of bread, cookies, whatever it is I'm baking. Oh, and I send it to my children. We have our own little feed, just on our phone with all of us. So I would say go out and have some experiences and learn how to read and write.
Yeah. That's great. And document your life, right? I mean, as well, as you said,
yeah.
Which is a great thing.
About your ancestors. Your ancestors can give you some great stories to do as well. So I'm doing several. Actually, I'm working on some. My people came over in 1632, basically. So they've lived here on this continent as an English colony.
Yeah.
So
that's fascinating.
I know, and they've had some great experiences. And so my grandpa Tuttle was actually from Ringsted, England. Then on my mother's side, her mother was straight from England, and so was her dad. And so they spoke differently because they would leave the H's off and add H's to ones that had vowels. I did not know them because they all died before I was born because my mom was one of the youngest. And so there's another story. Your ancestors, go back and find them and tell about them because that's one of my books, Oh Mother, Oh Father. It's the second in a series of my mom's books. And so I tell about her as a mother and my dad as a father and also about their parents. So it's kind of like a generational thing. But you know what? My dad was so interesting. He was in the Armed Guard in the Navy, and he actually in World War II would drop off the Army guys on the beachheads. Right. And one time they were under siege for like 30 days, and he thought he was going to die. But he never told us any of these stories. We only heard them from friends later. So
yeah, they're heroes. Right.
Yeah. Go back to your roots. Their stories just crawling with information.
That's a good idea. I like that. Okay, so we're running out of time now, Teddy, unfortunately. It's always sad when that happens. But on the last question, let's talk about Sadie Spider. Okay. How do you see this moving forward? Are there more adventures for Sadie? Or is she going to be in future books? How is this going to work? Or is this just a special one-time story?
Well, it'll probably just a one-time story. I mean, I could envision, I wrote down the other day, Sadie Spider goes shopping for groceries, or Sadie Spider goes fishing, or Sadie Spider does all these different things. And I wrote a whole list of like 20 things Sadie Spider could do.
Yeah.
But, I have so many other books that aren't spiders that I would rather do first. And my recent book that's out on audio is Joseph, based on King Tut the musical. I mean, I wrote a musical 20 years ago. And so I'd like to put on King Tut the musical. It's on audio and on Kindle. So that's the one I'm sort of focused on right now. And I want to do a sequel on it. I've got the story in my head. I just got to write it down because there is a sequel to it in another, show. And then the Princess Dragon and Baker, I made that into a children's opera. We have performed it here at one of the schools, me as an art director, a theater director, and it was so much fun. It's called A Princess with an Attitude, like my daughter, my oldest daughter. So, Sadie Spider will probably never have anyone else. Just stand alone. There are so much more better books I've written. Most of my books were written because my children were bored by the ones I was writing, or the other people were writing that I was reading, and they were kind of boring. They didn't have really great stories. And so that's why I started writing my own stories back in the 90s when my children were little.
Oh, well, that makes sense. Well, hopefully, you never know, she could do some sort of cameo somewhere, couldn't she, right? In a book in the future, perhaps. I don't know. But listen.
Yeah, but not a cooking book.
Yeah. So there we are. Well, Teddy, we're out of time. And that brings us to the end of this episode of the BrightWord Books podcast. A heartfelt thank you to Tedi Tuttle for sharing the inspiration behind Sadie Spider Does Lunch and for opening up about her journey as an author. You've been a great, great guest. You've told us about being a mother and a lifelong storyteller as well. So, listeners, if you'd like to experience Sadie Spider Does Lunch for yourself, or share it with the children in your life, which sounds like a very good idea, you can grab a copy now on Amazon. So listen, thank you for listening, and be sure to follow our podcast for more conversations with incredible authors and their stories, just like Tedi. So until next time, keep reading, keep imagining, and let the power of storytelling brighten your world. Great to have spoken to you today, Tedi. I hope you enjoyed yourself today. Well, I know that I did, and I hope the listeners do as well. So take care and have a great day.
Thanks, Chris.